The world has seen Lebanon turn from Switzerland of the Middle East to a devastated, war-ravaged country. But who's responsible for it? From sectarian wars, foreign occupation, refugee crisis, political assassinations, and militia warfare, this country has seen it all. And today we'll look at all the factors that led to the destruction of Lebanon. And remember, you'll find all sources in the comment section. So Lebanon is a country located on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea, with a Muslim majority, followed by Christians, mostly Maronite, and a minority of Druze. It was relatively a stable state until 1948, when Israel came into existence, because that led to two things. First, the expulsion of Palestinian Liberation Organization, aka the PLO, from Jordan to Lebanon. Second, the eventual creation of Hezbollah. Both these events would form the basis of Israel's justification for its invasion of Lebanon, which happened 4 times over the past 50 years. And we'll look at all of them today, but first, let's examine how the arrival of PLO would set the stage for Lebanon's downfall. In 1970, large number of PLO fighters were expelled from Jordan and now sought refuge in Lebanon. This is where Lebanon's bad times began. The PLO, as the name suggests, had one major goal: the liberation of Palestine from Israel. And once it set up its major base in southern Lebanon, it started attacking northern Israel. The attacks weren't unprovoked. There were constant rifts between the two until things escalated mid-March 1978, when PLO hijacked an Israeli bus on the Tel Aviv-Haifa road, killing 38 people. Israel, in retaliation, launched a massive military offensive called the Operation Litany. This marked the first Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon, up to the Litany River. This single conflict resulted in the deaths of up to 2,000 Lebanese and Palestinians and the displacement of more than 100,000 people in Lebanon, while 20 Israelis were killed. The UN intervened, and Israel accepted a ceasefire 10 days after the attack. But Lebanon's foes had just begun. You see, Lebanon's population is 32% Sunni Muslims, 31% Shia, 32% Christians, and roughly 5% Druze. And not everyone welcomed the influx of thousands of Palestinian refugees. By 1975, the PLO's presence had become a severe nuisance for Christians, and Christian militias began to increasingly engage with Palestinian militants in open conflict, and Israel saw an opportunity. Soon, Israel began to assist Lebanon's Christian residents and militias through the Good Fence along the Israel-Lebanon border. The Good Fence allowed Christian Lebanese to cross into Israel for work, medical treatment, and trade during the Lebanese Civil War, but it was also used by Israel to increase its support for Christian militias. The Civil War intensified, with both sides, Christians and the PLO, fighting each other and killing thousands at a time in gruesome massacres, such as the Quarantina Massacre, killing 1,500 Lebanese Muslims, or the Demor Massacre, where the same number of Christians were killed. The worst of them all were the Sabra and Shatila massacres, where 3,500 Palestinians were killed. As the conflict intensified, the Christian nationalists feared losing to the PLO, so they requested Syria's assistance. In 1976, Syrian troops entered Lebanon at the request of Lebanese Christian nationalists to fight the PLO. But Syria had other plans and soon shifted its alliance. For now, in these 15 years of civil war, 150,000 Lebanese were killed and more than 1 million were displaced, devastating Lebanese economy. This civil war only ended after the Arab League Summit of May 1989, which led to the formation of a committee to solve the Lebanese crisis. The committee issued a peace plan which was accepted by all. A ceasefire was established and the ports and airports were reopened, and refugees began to return. In the same month, the Lebanese parliament agreed on a national reconciliation plan to stabilize the political landscape and avoid future sectarian rifts. This plan is called the Taif Accord. According to this plan, the president of Lebanon would be a Maronite Christian, the prime minister a Sunni Muslim, and the speaker of parliament would be a Shia Muslim, whereas the parliament seats would be divided equally amongst the Christians and Muslims. By 1990s, the civil war had almost come to an end, but another crisis had already taken root in southern Lebanon. Israel and the PLO had been exchanging attacks while there was an ongoing civil war, but agreed to a ceasefire in July 1989. But then something happened in the next year that escalated these minor deterrence attacks to full-swing Israeli invasion of Lebanon, which lasted 18 years. On 3rd June 1982, there was an assassination attempt on the Israeli ambassador in London, and Israel blamed PLO. But neither did the PLO take responsibility for the attack, nor was there any evidence to prove it. In fact, historians and observers such as David Hurst and Benny Morris have commented that the PLO could not have been involved in the assault or even approved of it. They argue that the PLO was respecting the ceasefire agreements signed in the previous year and was keeping the border more stable than it had been for over a decade. Nonetheless, Israel used the attempted assassination as a justification to invade Lebanon to root out the PLO. This time their army marched as far as Beirut and remained there for 3 months until the PLO officially withdrew from Beirut to Tunisia. Israel's invasion of Lebanon lasted 18 years and sowed deep-rooted hatred amongst the Lebanese Muslims. Fighting between Israel and mainly Shia militia continued in the southern Lebanon, which eventually led to the creation of Hezbollah. Yes, it was during this 18-year Israeli occupation of South Lebanon that Hezbollah took shape. As the saying goes, violence begets more violence. Hezbollah waged a guerrilla war against the Israeli occupation until it was forced to withdraw in the year 2000. When Israel left, Lebanon was impoverished and devastated, with its building and crucial infrastructure such as roads, airports, and bridges demolished. After Israel left, Hezbollah became the de facto political and military authority in Lebanon. Support for Hezbollah's deployment was also backed by Syria, which dominated politics and security in Lebanon and retained around 15,000 troops in the country until 2005. The Lebanese government had asked neighboring Syria to send troops to fight the PLO. And Syrians, who had always seen Lebanon as a part of Greater Syria, were happy to oblige. But these troops stayed for 29 years, despite the PLO's expulsion and the Taif Accords, which ended the Lebanese Civil War. The reason was evident when Hafez al-Assad, the president of Syria, started installing his own puppet politicians in the position of power. Syria never fought Israel occupation directly, but encouraged Hezbollah to fight instead. Syria's occupation troops allowed Hezbollah to remain armed and active against Israel in southern Lebanon. Several attempts were made by the Lebanese government to expel Syrian forces, but they were met with force by Bashar al-Assad, sending a clear message. Syria was not leaving, but Syria did eventually leave, when millions of Lebanese poured into the streets demanding its withdrawal. After a former prime minister and the architect of the Taif Accords, Rafiq Hariri, an ardent opposer to Syrian occupation, was assassinated in a car bomb in 2005. Many Lebanese blamed Bashar al-Assad and Hezbollah for killing Hariri, forcing him to withdraw his troops. Hezbollah blamed Israel. Although Syrians left after 29 years, within 6 years an unprecedented number of Syrians was going to fill the streets of Lebanon again. It was only a short period of peace when Lebanon was free from Syria, Israel, and its own civil war, before another Israeli invasion took place. You see, after the Israeli withdrawal in the year 2000, the Lebanese government continued to accept Hezbollah's control of the south. Between 2000 and 2006, the Lebanon-Israeli border, aka the Blue Line, had remained largely stable, with occasional exchanges of fire. But in July 2006, Hezbollah infiltrated the Israeli border and killed 3 and kidnapped 2 soldiers and spirited them off to Lebanon, intending to negotiate the release of Hezbollah and Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. This led to a massive retaliatory response by Israel, in which Israel attacked several sites across Lebanon. More than 1,000 Lebanese died, and over 4,000 were injured. Lebanon was once again caught in the flames of Israel-Hezbollah conflict. This invasion lasted 34 days until a formal ceasefire came into place following intense diplomatic activity at the UN. The Israel-Hezbollah conflict would not re-emerge until October 7 Hamas attacks. We'll cover that in a bit, Meanwhile, from 2006 onwards, Lebanon was caught in sectarian rifts and political struggles as Hezbollah embedded its presence deep into the Lebanese politics. Lebanon might have been on an upward trajectory, but in 2011, the Syrian Civil War started. We have another video on how Bashar al-Assad, son of Hafiz al-Assad, was terrorizing Sunni Muslims in Syria, and as a result, over 1.5 million Syrian refugees fled to Lebanon. The Lebanese economy really took a hit after more than 1 million refugees filled the streets of Lebanon. In 2019, when a surge of refugee crisis, coronavirus, and political instability compounded, Lebanon's prosperity significantly diminished, paving the way for the country's economic crisis. Lebanon's economy was crippled, its banking sector shut down, and the value of Lebanese pound plummeted. This led to a series of protests that shook the country. The 2020 Beirut explosion killed over 200 Lebanese and shattered 70,000 homes, worsening the financial crisis. But this wasn't the end of Lebanon's woes. The cycle of violence continued. In 2024, shortly after the October 7 Hamas attacks, Hezbollah joined the conflict in support of Hamas, launching rockets into northern Israel. This would again provoke Israel for an all-out attack on Lebanon. Israel conducted an aerial bombing campaign throughout Lebanon, killing over 800 Lebanese within 1 week. Part of the reason was that Hezbollah had established a strong military presence in southern Lebanon and was accused of storing rockets in civilian sites. On 27 November, a ceasefire agreement came into effect. Israel had reported deaths of 56 of its soldiers, whereas 2,600 Lebanese died, and more than 1 million have been displaced. Israel to date hasn't withdrawn completely from Lebanon, and the aerial bombings haven't stopped. So who is to blame for Lebanon's destruction? Syria for its occupation, political meddling, and nurturing of Hezbollah? Israel for its invasions, support of Christian militias, and indiscriminate civilian bombings? The PLO for using Lebanon as a battleground and sparking the civil war? Hezbollah for provoking Israel and dragging Lebanon into repeated conflicts? Well, now you know that Lebanon's destruction was brought about by foreign forces and local factions.